Our U.S. correspondent, Rich Reynolds, in the house.
Heidi-ho, neighbor.
How's it going, man? You all right?
I'm doing great. A little hot there.
Have you managed to calm down after the Super Bowl 2025? You called it wrong, by the way.
I did call it wrong, as did a lot of other people. We got it wrong. We bet unread, and
it wasn't a three-peat after all.
Came up green. So God bless the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course the city of Philadelphia really overreacted, and the people that city, when they win any kind of championship, they go absolutely nuts.
And so they should, absolutely right too. So there were quite a few celebrities as well in evidence. I can't believe for the first time a president of the United States, sitting president, has actually shown up at the Super Bowl. It's a huge opportunity. How come nobody's done it before? Obviously, Mr. PR News, he did it.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that it cost about $8 million in taxpayer money for him to attend the game.
And fly him out before it finished.
Yeah. Did he?
Yeah.
Did he really? Because I did not. In all truthfulness, I did not stay up and watch the game. It was on in the middle of the night. But I watched all the highlights, and I said, "Oh, that's a good play. That's a good play. Oh, well done, right there." And then I saw the cutaways. But the whole idea of booing
Taylor and cheering the president. I mean, wow, what world are we living in?
We have really switched over.
I think it was actually the Eagles fans booing Taylor, really. I get just because of her association with Mr. Kelsey from
that's true.
That's what it was all about, nothing else, right?
But what happened was, as I understand, most of the people in the stadium were Eagles fans for some reason. A lot of the Chiefs fans didn't show up this time. You've never seen You've never seen a pro football game, probably.
Not live. No.
It is not. Live is not the best way to see a pro football game.
Right.
The best way to see it is on television. Yeah, the best way to see it's on television. To sit there, you got a front row seat. Yeah, okay.
And of course, they're a thing in itself, aren't they? The commercials, rather.
Yeah.
Sorry to use your terminology. That's a big thing, isn't it? The commercials in the Super Bowl.
There are a lot of people watch just for the commercials.
And they cost a lot.
They do about $8 million for a 60-second spot. At one time, remember when it crossed $1 million? People were freaking out, going, "Oh no, I got to pay $1 million!" But in this particular case, 126 million people watched the Super Bowl, the most watched Super Bowl in history. So, and I don't know why people watched this year more than last, but last year did really well.
What's the difference?
No, it's just a matter of the.
Was it the hype? The fact that it could have been a three-peat?
It could have been
for the first time ever.
Yeah, and it's the cachet of the state of the team and the Chiefs, because they are so good, because of Mahomes and because of Taylor Swift and because of Kelsey.
He didn't have a great game, Mahomes, did he?
He
young
did
lad
not.
Saw him off, didn't he? The young lad.
He got buried, man.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I was watching my phone. I got up in the middle of the night. And, I looked at my phone, and it was halftime, 24-0, and I said, "Oh, boy, this game's over." I went right back to sleep. So they were not going to – at 24-0, they were not going to win this game. So, but, it's a lot of people watch for the commercials, and that's a valid thing. And I saw a lot of the commercials, and I didn't think a lot of them were very good. But, for that sort of money, when you're going to spend this, spend $8 million for 60 seconds.
We haven't got much left for a storyline or actors or anything.
It had better be good. And nobody buys 15s or 30s. They're all buying 60s. They're all trying to tell a story in there, and it's a bit bizarre.
40-22 then.
40-22.
Bookies made a killing.
Yeah, but it was 24-0 at the half. It was over at the half, and poor Mahomes, he could not find his footing. As you said, they were on him. They were just burying him in that backfield. So.
Before we get into the obvious, I want to mention bird flu, because we've been hearing bits and pieces over the last couple of months, but now it seems to be coming to a head.
Yeah, it's been going on for about a year, and 65 people have been infected, and one person has died, but the person who died was older and worked at a bird farm. So before anybody you start to worry, going, "Oh no, I could get bird flu if I get, if I drink milk or I have a chicken or something like that." That's not going to happen.
It's okay, because you can put chlorine all over yours in the States. It's fine.
You can.
The one thing, can't catch anything after that.
There's an egg shortage, as most people have seen, is that when you go into your local grocery store, a lot of stores are saying, you're limited to a dozen, and sometimes the eggs are as much as $10 a dozen, and that's insane. Yeah, and where normally that may be $2.50 to $3,
and yet chicken is cheaper.
Chicken is cheaper.
What?
Yeah, and the thing is, there is bird flu, but if you buy a chicken, because of the way the chicken is cooked and the way you're going to prepare it at home, it doesn't really affect the bird per se. It's just, say, the eggs and, as we were talking about off air, raw milk. If you're drinking raw milk, I'm not a doctor.
But they don't come from chickens, Rich. That milk comes from
cows, right? But you're right, Kimosabi. You are right.
It's H5N1 infecting other agricultural products or animals.
Not only that, but not only cows, but they found the virus in cats,
goats and sheep,
dogs, goats and sheep, of course. So people have to be careful. Just stay away from the raw milk.
I'd stay away from the cat milk, to be honest with you. It's not great.
Not great. You don't like it, huh? What you like? Cat's milk?
No.
Can you milk a cat? I thought that was you.
Oh my gosh!
Wow!
Oh dear! Right, to the more sensible stuff, or if we can call it that. To be honest with you, Elon Musk with a surprise, nearly $100 billion bid for OpenAI. I thought he was going to buy TikTok. All of a sudden, he comes in for OpenAI.
Yeah,
what's going on?
Boy, these guys that don't do what we think they're going to do. How dare they?
Well, to be fair, Sam Altman has said not on your Nelly, so he's done what we thought he might. It's not for sale, basically.
He said he goes in, and something I didn't know as I got into this, I had no idea that he was one of the founders of OpenAI.
Right.
I didn't know that. So he's trying to basically buy back his own company for $100 billion. And Sam Altman, God love him, said, "I'm going to take the company private. I'm going to make it a for-profit company, and we're not for sale." So we'll see what happens.
So out of the country, of course, because he's at the Paris AI Summit. So,
right.
That's kind of Musk operating, in the way that he does, kind of, try and catch him broadside. But, a bit weird. We weren't expecting that at all.
But I have to tell you, if you're going to invest something, for me,
it's AI. Yeah.
It's AI, baby. That's where I put my money in. And I can't say anything about how the company is run. I just know that this is the thing everybody's talking about, and
But of course, last week we were talking about the Chinese version, which was probably going to undermine everything. But it seems to have recovered quite quickly.
Yeah, that's right. And
DeepSeek it was, wasn't it?
DeepSeek, right. But DeepSeek is going to be fine. I think OpenAI is going to figure out a way to do it cheaper. I think I don't know where $100 billion sits on the spectrum. I don't know. We're taking up a collection here in the control room, and I'm hopefully we've got about €9
the boss
collected.
The boss Danny's behind you. He's got that. Maybe he'll help.
There we go. He's in for 10 at least. So I don't know where that thing is going to go, but my guess is, regardless of what Sam Altman says, if the board of directors says we want to sell for $100 billion and they can make a whole lot of money, I think they're going to do it.
Well, come on, because like you said, it's probably the best thing to be in at the moment. You'd think they'd hold on and probably get more later. I don't know.
I genuinely don't know. Oh, but Musk did say, whatever you want, I'll match. I'll match. I'll give that to you. So you're absolutely right. If it's 100 now, by the time we're on the air next week, it could be 200. Man, this is costing me more money just as I keep talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty soon I'm going to have to come up with €20.
Let's start with the CBS News poll. President Trump has a positive approval amid an energetic quote-unquote, that's saying something, opening weeks, seen as doing what he promised. Is he?
Well, people think he is. People think that he's tough, energetic, focused, effective. He got really high grades all the way across the board. This is a CBS News YouGov poll. YouGov is a nonprofit. CBS, of course, is not. But 69% of the people said that Trump is tough, 63% energetic, focused, effective. These are all great attributes.
They'll love it.
And it got like from I did a little deep dive into this thing, and among Republicans, he had like 89, 90%, as high as 94.
Wow.
I mean, the Republicans really love what he's doing.
But those are high figures for anybody.
Really high figures. And I know for a fact that he didn't do well among Democrats. The Democrats a little bit different, but he did pick up a lot of people who are independents who think he's doing a really good job. at 70% of the people said that he's fulfilling his campaign promises, and overall his job approval is 53%, which is the highest he has ever gotten.
Even in the first term?
In the first term, he only had 11 or 12 days where he got over 50%, and now it's been 20 days. And he's cruising along at very high numbers. So
those first 100 days are all
they're
important.
crucial.
Yeah,
they're crucial.
But
so
not doing
people,
too badly.
People like him.
For well, certainly as we know, Republicans.
Yeah.
What about cost of living though? Because that was the big thing.
No, he doesn't do well with the cost of living.
He's not really done anything about it either yet.
No, he said, I'm going to take care of it on the first day, and he hasn't.
Tariffs are not going to help that either.
I'll tell you, this egg thing is really biting him in the butt, too. That he said, I'm going to bring down the cost of eggs. Well, actually, they're 3 times higher than when you started. But of no fault of his, in defense. I mean, it is a problem with chickens and viruses. And
the chicken and egg thing.
The chicken and egg thing, yeah.
Very good.
But he's, you need to think about this whole thing about tariffs, which, of course, we're going to get into again. Launching all these tariffs, he is the only one who believes that when you place a tariff on something coming in from another country, that the country pays for it. Everybody else, every economist, every person sitting in their living room knows that they are going to pay for this thing. And if you raise a tariff from China, from the UK, from Spain, 25%, and laying tariffs on the Canadians, and you're basically your best friends in the world. And the Mexicans, and you turn around and do this. I mean,
heck, we're already there. Let's go there. What about this?
The cost of things are going to go up.
What about this 25% aluminum and steel tariffs? The China levies into the US have come into effect. Now he's put 25% on steel and aluminum or aluminum for the rest of the world, the whole world, basically. Anything going into the States.
Right.
And let's not just upset the Canadians and the Mexicans and the Chinese and the Europeans and the UK. Let's just upset everyone.
Pretty much.
The whole world.
Pretty much. He's an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why they call him the Don Father. Yep. So he is that way. I don't know how long this is going to continue, but when you look into why he's doing this, there seems to be, as a lot of people feel, there's a method to his madness. He's doing this to basically hold it over other people's heads.
Well,
he's using it for leverage.
They're a bargaining tool, yeah.
Of course.
Exactly. That's what they're meant to be.
Yeah. But that's not to be said that that being said, the way he's treating the Chinese should be different than the way he treats the Canadians and the Mexicans, because they're our biggest.
I like that, though, because if you remember last week, it was 10% tariffs for the Chinese and 25% for the Mexicans and the Canadians. Yeah. Although it's not gone quite so far ahead. Yeah. Maybe with the steel and the aluminium, but the other things that he was talking about, it's not happened, has it?
And both words, by the way, are
aluminum.
No. Can I tell you that story about that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I looked into why you say aluminium and we say aluminum, and I thought certainly Americans are right about this. Certainly, I wear my flag on my lapel, and I'm thinking. So I looked it up and found out that aluminium is correct because I also took a lot of chemistry in college, and I'm used to. I had never heard of aluminium, and then I found out that we just call it aluminum because we're lazy. That it's a shorthand. So actually, we cut it down. We meaning Americans cut it down. Aluminium is absolutely the correct term. So there you go. So I bow to you,
it's weird, isn't
as
it?
I bow to you in front of everything.
There isn't a second I. So, effectively, it's ALUMINUM. So aluminum is probably more correct.
Well, I don't know. But actually, this is one of those things where we're both correct.
Unless I'm reading an American version of The Guardian at the moment.
I don't think so. So it's peanut butter and chocolate. They can exist at the same time.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
You mean jam. Sorry. Let's not go there. Let's just not even go there. We'll be here forever. Right. So, yes, back to tariffs then. So a method in his madness, because that basically sets his stall out. It gives somebody something to have a go at, and then he'll negotiate like he does. He's a businessman. Some people would call it climbing down, but it's just basically he just puts his stall out and then says, right, come on then. And
well, he works under the idea that everybody owes us money and everybody should be beholden to us, meaning the U.S., and that everybody's trying to steal from us.
No, it's America first.
Yeah, America first. He goes, so if you don't do this, we're going to put a tariff on you until you finally squeal and you say, okay, I'll help you with your problem. What do you need? And that's really all it is. The Chinese 25% has already begun. Apparently effective today. As we know, the Canadian and Mexican tariffs won't start for about another 3 weeks now. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's a bargaining tactic. He thinks it's going to put billions of dollars in the Treasury, in the U.S. Treasury. Whether it does or not remains to be seen, as he would say.
Well, we were talking before about his approval rating. Most people are saying that he's doing what he said he would do. Mm-hmm. Did he say this? He would halt enforcement of U.S. law banning bribery of foreign officials?
Okay. To me, this is the big story of the day, and it got kind of buried, because it's kind of a new thing. It's happened in the past 24 hours. He signed an executive order yesterday directing the U.S. Justice Department to halt prosecuting Americans accused of bribing foreign government officials to win business. Mm-hmm. There is an entire department that does nothing but go after people who are trying to bribe others in foreign countries. He is saying that he's eliminating that. So in other words, it's by executive order, it's going to be legal to bribe an official with a government, with a foreign government.
Well, in business, you'd call it lobbying, wouldn't you?
You would call it lobbying,
but it's
highly,
sort of thing.
highly illegal. The law has been responsible for some of the Justice Department's biggest corporate cases. They fined Goldman Sachs for the looting of Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. Mm-hmm. It's been considered kind of a crown jewel of laws, that if you try to bribe an official in another country, you're going to be called on it and you're going to be fined or maybe put in jail or something. But now Trump says, hey, it's cool, man. It's cool for you to go ahead and try to bribe somebody from another country.
Okay.
So to me, that's a big thing, and it's a big story I'm going to follow, and it's a little troubling.
Okay. Something that's even more troubling in my book is that nearly $500 million of food aid is at risk of spoiling because of the USAID cuts. And we did say people would die. Obviously, this didn't come out initially, but there's all of that food sat in warehouses and nothing's happening now because it's all been stopped.
Yeah, all that food, as you said, almost $500 million of food and any kind of assistance is sitting at the ports or in transit or in warehouses, and a lot of the stuff could spoil. And it's not going to anybody. The USAID has about 10,000 people on staff. And 2/3 were posted at the agencies, more than 60 missions all around the world doing great work. Is there fat in that organization? Yeah. Is there waste? Sure.
And probably some corruption too.
Of course, which is now legal. So if you look at that, it's really kind of sad. Hopefully, in the next week, by the time we come back next week, cooler heads will prevail, and a lot of that aid and a lot of that money is going to get out there.
So much so that the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy said that Trump's foreign aid cuts could be a big strategic mistake.
Yeah, I tend to think it's a misfire, but to walk in and say we're going to cut all the aid to all countries and everybody, that's a lot, especially countries that really need it now, specifically Ukraine.
The suffering that it will cause.
Of course.
There's also the worry that more nefarious countries might become involved,
of course,
and therefore influence those particular areas. And we're talking about the likes of the Russian Federation, for instance.
And China.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. We certainly are.
Yeah.
Okay, one more before we go to the break. And one of the other things to go by the wayside in the first 20 days is the penny.
The penny. You know what?
You mentioned this last week. You did say it was possible.
I did. I thought it was. I knew that it was on his radar. He finally pulled the string and said he's going to eliminate production of the penny effective immediately. The penny had a good run, a 233-year run. But if you have something I don't know how many people carry pennies in their pockets anymore, whether it's here in Spain or in the UK or in the US. But they have they produce an average of 4.5 billion pennies, and it costs almost 4 cents to produce a 1 cent penny. And
$179 million.
$179 million.
Well, those are Elon Musk's sums, and we have to trust him. He knows how to do a sum or two. But, of course, what he's not thinking about is then that brings the nickel into play.
Yeah.
Because then the nickel will be used more. You'll need more of them. They cost more to produce.
They do. The nickel costs. I don't know what that.
So is that a false economy? Is this Muskonomics?
It's crazy. It is Muskonomics. You know what? I'm thinking back to when I lived back in the States, and everybody I know had a jar full of pennies, and they would go and like once every couple of months, you'd go into a bank and you'd deposit them in your account, or you'd get rid of them somehow. But they were seen as a nuisance. And I don't know too many people walking around with pennies in their pockets, and somebody hands you a load of pennies, and you think, "Oh no, please, just don't." Even here now, when I'm buying something in the store, the big difference is here. In Europe, we pay for a lot of things with debit cards, where you would in the States, if you reach out and you buy a soft drink and it's $1, $2 or something like that, and you whip out a credit card, they'll look at you sideways.
Well, actually in Spain, but not so much pre-pandemic, but more so after.
Yeah, it's almost like people would rather not touch money.
That was with the pandemic that people didn't like to use as much.
So my final observation on this is that I think Trump is correct in doing what he's doing. I think it's a good move. It's going to cause the economy to move in a slightly different direction, and it's going to cause people to use their debit cards a little bit more. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Overall, I have to say you're sounding a lot more positive this week about America and its politics.
Yeah. I don't know. There are a couple of things, where I'd sit there and go, what is he doing? And then he did the penny thing, and I looked up and I said, now that's a good idea. I'd certainly get rid of the penny. Trump
has said in the last couple of days that he's spoken with Putin as Russia's war in Ukraine approaches its third anniversary. He's always a little bit secretive because they said, is it just once you've spoken to him? Is that since you've been president? We spoke. He doesn't tell you exactly what, where, and when. But also, subsequent to that, on the plane at the weekend, he said Ukraine may be Russian someday.
Yeah, he said they may be Russian, they may not be Russian. I've always contended that there's no way the Ukrainians are going back to Russian law, Russian domination, and they're going to keep on fighting. But then again, I don't have any skin in the game. I don't know anybody who's I do know people who are Ukrainian, but I don't know necessarily what's in their minds about what's going on. Trump, this is a case where I think he's just talking. I don't think he really knows one way or another. At times he says, I've already talked to Putin. Then the next day he goes, I never talked to him. And I've talked to Zelensky. I haven't talked to Zelensky. It could go either way. What I would say is just when you know, let us know.
We do know that there's going to be some talks this week, certainly, because we know that some of the top dogs from the White House are in Europe, or already in Europe, actually, and we'll be going to the big defense conference in Munich at the end of the week, over the weekend. Also, we know that senior officials are going to be visiting Ukraine from the White House in the next week or 7 days.
Yeah, and I think Zelensky himself is going to be there.
Zelensky's going to be at
but the Russians are not sending anybody to represent. And of course, unless you get them to the table, nothing's really going to happen. You've got eventually the two of them, and maybe Trump or representatives from the U.S. or other countries are going to have to step in and get together on this thing and say, let's kind of work this thing out.
There has been a response to Donald Trump saying that Ukraine may or may not be Russian someday from the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't get it. Ukraine isn't a failing business ripe for a hostile takeover. The words of Elena Tregub, who's the civil society leader and advisor at Ukraine's Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. Ukrainians are proud, she said, high-spirited people who will fight till the end for their independence and their right to exist. Ukraine will never be Russian.
Well, there you have it. I mean, that's put as beautifully as you can put it. Part of this is financial for Trump. He was talking about how we've got so much money over there. For us to continue to send weapons and aid, we're going to need something back. And what he's asking for the
It was a huge figure, wasn't it?
$500 billion. And he says, we're going to have all this money and I want it back. And he wants the equivalent in the terms of
rare earth minerals. And the like.
Yeah.
So we're talking about things to make batteries,
of course.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But actually, that said, it wasn't apparently Trump who came up with that, first of all. That kind of was pushed out there from Kyiv to the US as a possibility.
Yeah.
So it's not perhaps something, it's not like where he's going, we'll take this or we take that again. It was actually possibly, it looks like something that came from the Ukrainians themselves as a way to make sure that the tap isn't turned off as far as military aid is concerned.
Of course.
We know that that's continuing and we know that has continued. Right. That hasn't stopped. Humanitarian aid under the auspices of USAID, that has stopped.
Yeah, and we know that he wants to be a great broker. He wants to be the great deal maker here. So he'll do whatever he can to get in the middle of this thing. In light of all that he's done in the past 3 weeks, I think hopefully something's going to happen by spring.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, whilst we're live, there's the situation that's going on with the recent announcements that he's made. All hell is going to break out, as Trump said, that this is a Gaza ceasefire ultimatum if hostages aren't returned by midday on Saturday, because there's a delay now in what was being brokered because Hamas is saying that the Israelis have not stuck to the deal. So he's waded in and said all hell will break. But when asked exactly what he meant, he said, you'll find out.
Well, we share his frustration. I think everybody shares his frustration that Hamas is freeing up 2 and 3 people at a time and still holds all of these other people back that really need to be set free. And I share his concerns that we don't know why everybody isn't just being released at one time. I mean, obviously, it's a bargaining position, of course. But it's I think it's kind of despicable the way the whole situation's been handling.
I don't think it's been clarified specifically what Hamas claiming that ceasefire violations had included delaying the return of the displaced to the northern Gaza Strip and targeting with shelling and gunfire. All of this still to be corroborated, but that's the crux of the issue, it seems, at the moment on that one.
But his idea of turning Gaza into an American protectorate and turning it into kind of Atlantic City or the Riviera of the Mediterranean.
And both him and Bibi were saying, Palestinians can return after. And then there was something that came out today where no, they can't.
Yeah. And so if that happens, looking back to the CBS polling against, people are not very positive when it comes to that whole thing. Americans don't seem to be really enthusiastic about having the Gaza Strip be an American amusement park.
Literally, he wants to buy everything.
He does. Everything's about real estate.
It's like Monopoly for him.
No, everything's about real estate to him. He thinks everything can be solved with a good deal.
On the military front, we may well be looking at that again in some detail next week because whilst he's been defending Musk, he's saying that the next task for DOGE, the department that are looking at this excess spending of U.S. departments, it's the military, baby.
Well, the military is the largest department, and the most amount of money is spent on the military of all. And
I've worked for the American Army. Wow.
Yeah, of course.
Just buy another one if one doesn't work.
That's right.
Literally, let's have 5 more tanks in a battalion because 5 of them won't leave the warehouse, but we've got the other 5 anyway.
Well, look at how many people got angry when the U.S. left Afghanistan and they left behind what was it estimate? $2 billion worth of machinery and tanks and jeeps and
well, I remember
and everything
Vietnam. They're just pushing them off the aircraft carriers.
That's true.
Stuff,
That's true. So, but looks like DOGE is setting its sights on the military next. It's not a bad thing to do as long as they don't do anything.
Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because if you do the whole just stop everything, that
ain't happening.
In some areas isn't going to work, is it?
No.
Because if they suddenly, I think we've had assurances they're not going to stop the military aid to Israel, certainly. We know that.
Yeah.
But if it stops to other areas, it might cause an issue. But it's certainly going to be something that is going to be in the headlines over the next couple of days.
There's no question.
All right. I know you're just giving me short answers because you want to get to a particular story before we finish. But I'm going to still go with what about this joking about a third term? He's mentioned this 3 times now since his inauguration. He's not meant to be allowed a third term, is he?
No, he's not. It's in the Constitution, and it was.
Does that seem to matter to him? He's not really worrying about.
He doesn't care about
legalities at the moment, is he?
It all happened, as most Americans know, when FDR won a fourth term in 1944, and then he died in 1945, and after that, it was said no president can be elected to more than 2 terms. Here's how he gets around that, because he has joked about it in closed door and even open door meetings where he says, I think I'll run for a third term. And everybody just laughs about it. But everybody knows that.
You know better than that, right?
We know better than that. And one of the thoughts is that he can get around this, because there is a small workaround. He could have J.D. Vance run for president, and he could be vice president.
Putin did that.
Yeah, Putin exactly did that, 20 years ago. Do we remember the name of the guy that was the...
He's still there somewhere. I can't remember. It's gone out of my head. But he's like leader of the party or something.
Yeah, but that's what he would do. So Medvedev.
Yeah, not the tennis player.
And so what he would do is there would be President J.D. Vance, and a week later, Vance would step down and Trump would step in. God. It's only he's not allowed to be elected more than twice. To do otherwise would be a constitutional amendment. And let me tell you something. This has happened 30 or 40 times in history, around 30 times, where there have been amendment changes. It takes years.
I'll tell you one thing. And actually I put you in a couple of stories about this where Democrats are starting to stand up, and you haven't put any in today.
No.
So we need to look at that. But actually the Democrats do need to stand up, and certainly in a situation like that, they'd have to. All right, I'll let you have it then. The final chance on this one, where Trump has said back to plastic as far as paper straws are concerned, because they explode.
He has had it. No more paper straws. He can't take it anymore. He says we're going back to plastic. All government food services and packaging and events. Biden eliminated that, and he eliminated plastic straws because they are a hazard.
Yeah, rubbish for the environment.
Of course.
Then he was talking about sharks eating them. He went everywhere with this one.
8.3 billion. That's how many plastic straws are estimated to be contaminating beaches around the world. The European Union banned plastic straws in 2021. And some U.S. cities like Seattle and Miami Beach and my former hometown of Portland did it.
We all know, they're rubbish.
Yeah.
They are rubbish. Okay?
However,
these paper straws, they dissolve. They don't explode. Where did it get exploded from?
I don't know. That's like
lost in the GPT translation.
That's like the windmills causing cancer. But no, we did talk about this off air, and that's how we got
tried beer in McDonald's in Spain.
That's how we started talking about McDonald's.
Yeah.
We started talking about whether or not you can use paper straw in a milkshake, and the answer is no.
We can't even get a milkshake at McDonald's in Spain. So there you go.
Do they not have milkshakes?
You get beer though. That's what we were talking about.
No, but they don't have milkshakes here.
That's Moody's well upset with that one.
Oh my God.
Right, brilliant, love it. We started and we finished.
All right,
lovely. We got through pretty much everything. Our U.S. correspondent Rich Reynolds back with us next week. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Adios.